Good evening and welcome to the Shaker Lane School Building Committee meeting for March 12th, 2024. I'm Steve Moore, Chairman of the committee, and I call this meeting to order at 6:03. We have two items on the agenda for this evening's meeting. The first is to review two designer services submissions from Studio G and Feingold Alexander Architects. A vote to recommend a vendor to the Massachusetts School Building Authority on behalf of the Shaker Lane School Building Committee. The second is any other action needed to be taken by the committee. At the January 9th meeting, the committee voted 5 members to serve on the Designer Selection Committee, and they consist of Kelly Clancy, Stacy Damaris, Chuck DeCoste, Steve Venturi, and Brian Ferrara. So I'll now turn the meeting over to Ryan to provide the recommendation of the Designer Selection Subcommittee.
Okay. So thank you, everyone. We have two proposals before you for the designer services. First is Feingold Alexander Architects, and the other is Studio G. So I guess Steve Moore, I guess the question would be is, do you we've got five members of the subcommittee. I think 4 are in attendance. So would you want it to, so that we have that discussion among the 4 of us in attendance? Oh, Stacy's coming on. Hold on.
So I guess my question is, have you, has the subcommittee met to review and vote on a preferred firm?
No, this is our first meeting.
Oh, okay.
And Stephen, just be careful where the way that the MSBA notes things, you're not voting, you're recommending. Right. You guys are having a discussion tonight based on the 2 proposals, and it's really how you all feel about what you read, based on what you know the project is going to be, the scope of the work, a new elementary school, added renovation elementary school, seeing the experience that these firms have had, what they showed you in their proposal. What do y'all feel about it? That's kind of the gist of what tonight is. And at the end, I'll get into a little bit more detail about what actually happens on the 26th. But you guys need to have a good discussion about how you all receive the proposals and what you all think about it.
Thanks, Mark. Did we lose Ryan?
I'm back on. I'm back in. I don't know what happened.
You're frozen with your question.
Okay, I don't know what happened. So anyway, so I think to Steve Moore's to my earlier point, I think this is the purpose of this meeting, to discuss it among the 5 subcommittee members now that they've had the opportunity to review the proposals and come forward with presumably a recommendation to the MSBA, but with a first choice and presumably a second choice, because from what I understand from Mark Stafford is that ultimately this will be a decision of the MSB, the subgroup of the MSBA, but they will take our recommendation into consideration as part of that decision. Is that safe to say, Mark?
Yes, that is correct. I mean, again, I'll go over it a little bit more detail at the end, and the information that was sent out on an email the other day. But you guys have all the input. They're going to look to you for comments, questions as they go through a review. The 9, 10, 11, I don't know how many people, 12 people that are on the designer selection panel will be at the meeting if they all show up. And they're going to be they're going to do a review themselves, and they're going to do an actual ranking. They're going to do a vote of, 3 points, 2 points, whatever. But as part of that discussion on the 26th, they want your input. And that input's going to be based on what we discussed.
So, Mark, do we need to provide minutes from tonight's meeting?
Not necessarily to the meeting on the 26th. But the MSBA is going to run the show on the 26th. You're going to be present. It's open to the public. And I know Steve Mark said he wanted to be there. He can be there. Both architects can be there and listen to the conversation. We're there, but we really don't do any input at the meeting at all. We're there just to see how it all goes. So, you know, you all need to have a discussion tonight about what you feel is good, bad, or indifferent in both of the proposals. They may ask you questions. I've been in design and selection panel meetings where the districts had no comment. You know, maybe they do their ranking and it's like, just an example, Fine Goal Alexander comes out ranked #1 to them. You all might feel Fine Goal is best for the job. So you don't any comment, no comment, because you're going to get kind of what you want. If it's the other way around, it's a discussion with them as well. They're going to want comments and input from you. Just be very careful not to say that you ranked them or voted on them. You reviewed them for a recommendation of what you feel would be best for the project. And there can be a back and forth with the committee, but ultimately you will be voting. You will be voting on them on the 26th. You'll be giving them a ranking at that point, along with the panel. And then once the numbers come out, if you're vehemently against it, they'll be open to that comment. If you're not, they'll just proceed. And another interesting piece, and I'm getting ahead of myself, but we might as well talk about it now, because there's only 2 firms, they may opt to not interview. They may say the ranking ends up with Fine Goal Alexander #1 or Studio G #1. They may not need to interview because there's only 2 firms and they can just proceed going forward from that point. I will say we would recommend interviewing because you're all going to be working with the selected firm for the next 5 years. It would be good to hear them and see who the project manager, day-to-day person is going to be. Listen to them and see, you know, we're all going to have a strong relationship with them for a bunch of years. So that's a recommendation we would make, that they should go through the process, because you've gotten 2 great proposals, but you haven't met the people that you're going to be working with. So that would be our recommendation. So what I had said at the end, it's kind of been said now. So Stacy has a question.
Yes, I just wanted to see, so do I need to be taking notes on this? Can I just clarify that? Am I taking notes for this meeting?
Stacy, I can.
It's being recorded.
So don't worry about it. I can take the minutes for this one.
Are you sure?
It's okay. No, yeah, that's awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, it is being recorded, and it is an official group under the building committee. You are the subcommittee for the design. So yes, there should be minutes, and if there's ever a question, you know, later on. But your comments about the proposals are what you'll have a discussion about tonight, and then I can go again over the stuff a little more detailed at the end. But you guys can have a discussion about how you felt about the proposals.
You know, Marcus, this is really interesting. It's really, when I went through the proposals, it was hard for me, because without having somebody to talk to from one of these companies, you're making assumptions. And
Exactly.
I mean, you know, personally, I felt both proposals were very well done, and so I don't know. There's not a lot of differentiating criteria that I found in both proposals, which makes it more difficult. But you know, for me, the only thing that keeps resonating with me is Studio G has appeared to have worked on more elementary school projects, which, you know, I guess says something to me. But that's certainly, there's a lot more to this than that. But you know, I guess that's all I have at this point in time. I mean, they're both organized. Their staffing they're well qualified. Certainly interested to hear some other comments.
And just to say, as a group, as everybody else talks about how they feel about it, that can be the comment you make to the MSBA at the 26th. Gee, we really like both firms. Would like to hear from them. You know, would like to interview them and hear what they have to say, and then get a better feeling about how to rank them. Because when you interview them, it's kind of, when I was on the architecture side, it's kind of tough. They rank you right there, you know? So if there's 3 firms going for an interview, you interview, they literally rank you 3, 2, and 1. And if you end up being number 3, you're kind of like, you know, that didn't go too well.
Wow.
So they do rank you right away. So I think that's an absolute option to get a better sense of not just reading a proposal, as I said earlier, how you might be able to get along with people that you might be working with for a while.
Mark, if we were to do that, how much would that delay the process? Because any other building projects we've done, I feel like we've done exactly that. We've had people in, we've actually been in a room, not on a Zoom, where they've been able to, rather than just give us a 76 slide deck, they've been able to present something to us. And I don't know, I feel like I feel a little shortchanged being part of this process. I kind of agree with what Kelly had said as far as both firms seeming to be adequate, and I think would be in good hands with either. And I did notice, as Kelly mentioned, more elementary schools by Studio G, but on the other hand, Feingold's renovation plan looked like the better renovation plan. So I personally would prefer to have some sort of interaction in person where they could sell themselves to us.
No, absolutely. And back to the good old days when they used to do this all in person, and they don't do that anymore. Again, that's a strong recommendation that can come from you folks to the MSBA. And because you've got two, they have those options about selecting one right away from the meeting on the 26th or have an interview. So your comments to them can be, we'd really like to hear from them, and they'll abide by that.
Thank you.
And in looking at the two proposals, I mean, it's pretty clear that the people involved have been doing this for a long time with the same firm. A lot of them had 20 years experience with the same firm. So I think that was kind of a wash. The educational aspect of it all, I have to defer to Kelly and the professionals here to go through that. But I kind of concentrated on, and Chuck kind of mentioned this, was the two plans, the renovation piece against the new construction piece and the ideas that they had. And I was kind of leaning toward Feingold and looking at that reno piece that they had. I thought it was keeping a lot of, because when you look at the building and you look at the where the auditorium is, that main entrance there, I mean, it's a pretty nice looking building right there. I know the inside is not very nice, but the outside is pretty decent. And I think that plan from Feingold keeps more of that facade than the other one that I saw. So I guess I'm leaning toward Feingold for the potential of the renovation. I mean, they're both like 2-story buildings that they're building, but even the renovation piece for Studio G looked more like a new building. Most of it was new construction anyways, way in the back. So that's my opinion.
And that's a very good observation, Steve, but be careful. Those are very, very, very preliminary.
Yeah.
Very preliminary.
I know.
You know, they put the pretty pictures out at the end of the brochure just to grab your
And you can tell that these
which is
things are so
great.
cookie cutter because they're so similar.
Well,
that
this
they
much
must
of the
have.
presentation's the application from the state, and then the rest of it's, what you need to do. So
Yeah.
it's a great point that you bring up. It's great to see what they're thinking about, because that will impact maybe what your thoughts are. But just I have to say, it's very preliminary.
Oh, I know.
Stacy, did you have another question? Your hand is still up, or?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to add to, let me just lower my hand here. Yeah, I mean, I feel very similarly to Chuck and Kelly that I think it would be really great for us to get these guys in front of us just so we can get a feel for them. I know it really helped with getting you guys on board, just getting a feel for like how everybody's working together. So I think the only thing that I noticed that was a big difference that just hasn't been mentioned yet was just the number of architects that both of the firms have. And Mark, you might be able to speak a little better to this if that's something we need to pay attention to. Because Feingold has 23 architects, which seems like a pretty substantial amount of resources for us to have, considering potentially the complexity of the project, if we're going to be doing different locations or renovating. Whereas Studio G, I think they only had like 8 architects. So they do have very different size teams. So I don't know if that's something we need to consider too, depending on the scope of the project, but I did notice that was kind of a big difference between them.
And Stacy, that's another excellent point. Feingold is definitely a bigger firm than Studio G. I don't remember reading in Feingold's proposal, it might have been in there, about their availability, but Studio G made it very, very clear So they're ready to start like right away. They're available. So many projects in the MSP process they have are towards the end of building, so they have a whole team ready to go. So I think that can impact the number of people that work on it. So there is a smaller firm versus a larger firm, but the team that works on it from Feingold Alexander certainly won't be all 23 architects. There'll be, you'll see, and again, that this will be coming out on an interview. You'll have a senior project manager is a day-to-day person you work with all the time. You'll have the principal that'll be overseeing all that and will pop in every now and then. So the teams initially through the feasibility stage and schematic are usually relatively small anyway, until you get to the document phase with design, development, construction documents, etc. So, but that's a very good point. One firm's a little bit bigger than the other. I don't know if that really impacts what their value can be. So
No offense, Mark, but more architects doesn't always mean a better project.
it's not
Architects
taken.
are a unique
The next time
animal.
I'm a recovering architect, so not taken.
You kind of touched on this, Mark. How many projects does each of the firms have going right now? I mean,
Right.
are they both in projects right going on?
They do. I don't remember off the top of my head what Feingold's got going on, but both of them are involved in the process and have done the MSPA projects. But if they're closing out projects, that's totally different than beginning the project. So I think they're both ready to go. If they're submitting a proposal for a project, they're available to start the project.
Okay.
Feingold may have said it, I don't remember hearing it or reading it, but I know Studio G in maybe their opening letter said, we're ready to start. Suresh, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I just want to mention that Studio G primarily does schoolwork, and whereas Feingold Alexander does other projects too. So they're, like you said, they have a bigger bench, but they do more different kinds of work. And Studio G is almost specializes in mostly schoolwork.
It's good input.
Michelle, I know you're up against it. Did you want to mention anything?
No, I actually am just looking this because I wasn't part of the subcommittee. I was kind of leaving this up to everyone else to look at them. So I just took a look at them earlier before I got here. No, nothing to add.
I think I just said for my little ad here, I think I echo some of the sentiment here. I agree with Kelly. Both presentations were good. Both of them, I think, could do the job. I also know the same thing that Stacy did, which it seems as if Feingold Alexander is a little bit bigger, which may provide some additional capacity when necessary. And I think the other part of it, I'm familiar with a couple of the projects. Living in Arlington, my children went to two of the schools that they renovated here, the Gibbs School and the Hardy School, both of which I know the design team only does a portion of that work, but I have to say that was very much impressed with what they have done, especially one of the schools was just a full gut renovation, and the thoughtful design that they presented to it is just kind of being able to experience their work firsthand. It's impressive. So with that said, so Mark, is it your thought that, and I think I hear this from the rest of the group, that we should maybe be looking to try to schedule another call, do an interview? Would you want to do it in person? Do we want to do it via Zoom? But and I think and Chuck asked the question, which was, I don't know if we quite addressed that. Does that impact our timeline in any way?
Well, the MSBA already has it scheduled out that the DSP meeting's on the 26th, and then the interviews are on April 9th. So they already have that all scheduled out, so it shouldn't impact any changes in the schedule. If you opt not to interview, you've saved a couple of weeks, but it's minuscule in the whole scheme of things when we go forward. Again, to respect Michelle's time, Suresh, what do you got? Bob, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. If you look at tab 9 of the both proposals, that will give you the the amount of work they have, current work that they are working on.
Okay.
List the number of projects in tab 9.
If I could just share the screen for a second, I just want to go over that, emphasize some of the points that are on that email that came out from Robin the other day.
And you should be able to share it, I think. See if you can do it, Mark.
Yeah, that first bullet at the end of page 1 is interesting.
I don't see the share thing pop up. Usually something pops up for me to click OK.
Should be highlighted in green on the bottom, no?
Got it. Thank you. So if y'all can see the email that went out to Robin, I just want to highlight a couple of things that this is really what the discussion is going to entail as part of the meeting. So I know Steve Mark wanted to enjoy, so just to emphasize that they are open to the public. They don't anticipate going into executive session. The respondent of the services, as well as the member of the public, are welcome to attend the meetings and listen to the discussion. All members of the panel, including the 3 representatives from Littleton, are welcomed and encouraged to offer information, make comments, and ask questions, which hopefully will come out of what the discussion is tonight. It can even be, listen, we think they're both close, we want to interview them. It could be as simple and short as that. During the meeting, it says that they consider the applications for the proposed project. At the conclusion of the discussion, each member of the DSP Design Selection Committee, including the district, has the opportunity to vote on the applicants. And that's typically when they interview, but if there's like 6 firms, they'll put it down at 3, and then they'll interview the 3. Seeing that we have the 2, we're most likely gonna rank 1 and rank 1 and 1, 2, and they're gonna interview. But I just wanted to make sure after the points of tally, the DSP will decide whether the top 3. Sorry, the things in the way. Whether the top 3 choices to authorize the district to begin negotiations to award the contract to the top firm or to interview. So, and that's the attachment that was headed to it too. But I wanted to highlight just those pieces. So they encourage to ask questions. They welcome comments and from the representatives, but you don't have to, because you are going to rank them, because if you want to interview them, then I think that's the one thing you really need to emphasize with them. We'd like to hear from them. And I think that's probably a good way of going about it. Now I get to...
So Mark, remind me, the DSP is about what, 16 people?
Yeah, I think the last time I read it was about 15. Not all 15 show up, and I think they only require 4 for a quorum. The most times I've gone, you get 8 or 9 or 10 people, so they usually do all show up, and they usually all talk. So I don't think, Michelle brought it up earlier, I don't think there was a scheduled time set out yet. It's usually 10 or 10:30 in the morning, and it is a Zoom meeting, but they go for like an hour, because they do all want to speak, and they do all want to talk about what's going on. They do like to hear from you, but they run the show until they kind of ask questions from you guys. Then you make a ranking, and then, like I said, we're 2 firms. I think the emphasis should be you want to hear from them.
I emailed Robin and asked her, and I think I might have mentioned this, Mark, when we talked. She said that we are, at the moment, we're the only people we're the only school that's on the agenda for that day. So she's anticipating our meeting to be at like 8:25 in the morning.
Oh, it's earlier. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, and then, but she said she would update us next week. That's at the moment we're the only school on the docket.
Okay.
That's interesting. Mark, Robin sent us an email today, and in the first bullet, I'm just trying to interpret it. It says, other than for administrative purposes, the owner's project manager, district personnel, and DSP members, including district representatives, are prohibited from contacting, communicating, or discussing designer selection for this potential project in any way. So what does that mean?
I think that means you can't talk to anybody from Feingold or Studio G.
So
That's my interpretation of that. Because we can, I mean, I've done it on multiple projects with the MSBA where we have conversations with districts just like this. Suresh, is that your interpretation?
That's correct. None of us can talk to the 2 applicants at this point.
Yeah, typically it's you can't talk to either applicant after the RFP goes out.
Yeah, so we really, yeah, that's kind of not worded great because I think that's what any with the applicant during any officially convened meeting of the GSBA. So we're not supposed to speak to the two firms or, that sent in proposals, which we don't.
Yeah, but
You guys aren't talking to them, right?
no, but that includes all of us, obviously, right?
Everybody, yes, exactly.
So we really can't interview them then.
Say again?
We cannot interview them.
Oh, no. You can, once you're in an official meeting with the DSP, you can make the recommendation to interview them once you're with the MSBA. You can't do things outside of the MSBA.
So that would prolong the decision then if we do that.
It's already built in. I think we should just go with it. I'm glad Chuck asked it, and it's built in to the timeline on the 9th.
It is built in. There's no change for it. If for some reason it's emphasized on the 26th, you're going to take one of the two of them and they don't want to interview them and the MSB is adamant about that, then you just start negotiations. But I think from what I'm hearing from you all tonight, I would think you all want to hear from them. So I would make that the emphasis of your information, your comments, and your questions that you might ask the DSB people on the 26th. That you can even put it in the form of a question if you want. Hey, is it we really like to interview? Can we interview them?
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Yep. Back to
Mark. Do we vote to make that recommendation?
Vote tonight to make the recommendation for interviewing?
Yeah.
You certainly can do that. Again, it's part of your discussion tonight, how you want to approach the DSP meeting with the MSBA. Absolutely.
I mean, does it need to be a vote or is it just a discussion?
Suresh, what's your take on that? I don't think does it need to be a formal vote?
It could be a formal vote that, you would like to have a interview process and not just shortlisting of, that you like to have the interview itself.
But at this meeting, do they have to take an official vote to say that?
They don't need to. You really don't need to take any vote. It's the only thing is, yes, you met, and because there's no shortlisting, really speaking, you're not ranking them 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. So I think that's the reason of the purpose of this meeting usually is to rank them. But in this case, it's again not a ranking, but the committee members can have a joint discussion as to what they would like to do, or at the DSP meeting itself, you still have each 3 voices. You all 3 can decide 2 different ways at that point, if you so choose to, because each of them have to say why you like the presentation after the presentation and what you like about the presentation. So you can have those comments and discussion later on too.
Okay, just a consensus.
Yeah. Can you all see my screen with the highlighted pieces here as well?
Yep.
So this information was included in the RFS, but it was also sent out as part of the requirements, procedures, and acknowledgement for that Robin sent out the other day. So again, it's just things like prior experience, best illuminating. You guys have illustrated. You guys have read all this. Past performances, if anything, quality project designs, all that other stuff. We have a form that we're working on currently and a reference check that we're working on that we'll have ready for the MSBA by the 19th. They need it a week before the meeting. They use that information to assess, the 2 proposals, geographic proximity, anything else you can think of. This is the form that we have for our review with their sub-consultants, if they met every bit of the criteria that was put in the proposal. So that one's pretty much underway and done.
Mark, if you're talking about a form that all we see on the, you're just sharing the email, you're not sharing a form.
Oh, sorry, I missed it. That's why I asked it. You don't see the item B?
No.
No. Okay, see, this is sharing, share the screen. How about now?
Okay.
All right, sorry, that's what I talked to you before. Again, this was in the RFS, and this is just more things to think about when you're reviewing the proposals. But a lot of the information that's in there, can you see this one?
Yep.
Yep.
The colored one?
Yes.
Okay, that's the start of our review of all the information that they have to do for sub-consultants, everything that has to meet the requirements of the RFS, the proposal and the application. So we've got this started, and there's a whole reference check for the two firms that we're undergoing right now that will be ready to go by the 19th. They need it a week before so they can acknowledge exactly what's going on. So that's kind of it. Those are the two things I wanted to emphasize at the end. It sounds like you all had a good opportunity to review things and have an opinion, which is great. And what the strongest thing coming out of tonight in my mind is you want to interview them, which I think is great.
It seems like we have our plan forward. I don't know if anyone else has any questions, but at least for the three people representing the committee, I think we know what our charges. We'll just attend the meeting and ask if we can set up interviews.
Can I just say too, sorry, I'm gonna get my video on, kind of up around here. Depending on what time the meeting's at, I would love to be there. I think just when Steve called, he said it was at a time that I already had an appointment that I can't reschedule. So hopefully I can be there. If Michelle's like, I think Michelle said it was gonna be like 8 o'clock or 8:45 or something. So
Yeah, they'll confirm that. They'll confirm that with us, I'm sure sooner than later. I don't know if they'll do it on the 19th once we submit the information that we have to get to them, they'll confirm it, but they'll send it out to Ryan and everybody else, and once they have the time set up.
Okay.
Perfect.
Any other thoughts, comments, concerns, quandaries, questions?
No, I'm good.
Yeah.
Once. Thank you all for taking the time to review everything and be here tonight. I know back-to-back, weekly meetings is not the best, but we're beginning now, and this is exciting. We're going to get, I think, a good firm out of this, and then we'll hit the ground running with who ultimately is chosen. But the 26th will be listening to a lot of MSBA information. You guys can comment whatever you feel is, required. You'll make a ranking, and then I think we should really emphasize you want to interview them, and we'll go.
Sounds
So
good.
Mark and Suresh, thanks for your guidance on this. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Second,
Kelly? Yeah.
all in favor?
Aye.
I
Have a great evening. Thanks.
You as well.
It's still light out. Woo!